Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unscripted Violence, your podcast for all talk pro wrestling, especially on the indies. And I'm very happy to have back with us Miss Kimber Lena. We have a good show to talk about today and good topics. How are you doing, Kimber?
I'm doing pretty good. I do agree this is a great topic for us to tackle today.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent one. One I've seen that I don't know, just personally on the IWC and people's Twitter posts and everything, it's raised a lot more concern with me lately and people's views. So, in case you guys didn't, I didn't title this right or anything, but we are talking about women in pro wrestling and the state of how women are being viewed and presented in pro wrestling today. And Kimber, I think you're the best one to talk about this. What's your view about like how women's wrestling has evolved um, since like let's just say since you started wrestling? How have you seen women's wrestling evolve?
See, I haven't started that super long ago, but I've certainly noticed, like, in the way I got treated, like, before and after being a pro wrestler. It was, like, a very crazy difference. Very, very, I wasn't expecting it. Very unexpected, but it's taught me a lot about, like, what the women in this industry face.
And what do you think is like one of the main challenges? Have is it in the locker room? Is it have to do with the fans, or is it a little bit of both?
I've never had any problems in the locker room per se, but I do. Most of my problems come with, like, fans who think it's acceptable to, like, DM you and, like, ask to take you out, or, like, ask you to start an OnlyFans or stuff like that. That, like, you shouldn't be asking random people on the internet.
Yeah, I find that kind of disturbing and extremely disrespectful. Um, I've since deleted the comments that I've gotten on this podcast, which really kind of lit a fire under my ass to talk about this. But just guys, the women in this industry are not here to be your I don't know how to put it, to be your object or to be stared at that way. They work just as hard as men in this industry, if not harder, I would say, in a lot of instances. And you're not talking to them like Kimber said, like you're going to ask them on a date, which or anything inappropriate. You should be talking about what they're doing, and that's pro wrestling.
We are definitely pro wrestlers. Um, I understand there's people out there, that, like, they're attracted to women, but we don't need
Right.
to get DMs or, like, threatened or, like, in, like, creepy manners. Like, I've gotten some really bad ones, some of which I feel like are even too extreme to discuss, like, here, because I don't want anything to get taken down or anything. But it's,
Right.
like, sometimes it's so gross, and there's a level where you're not appreciating them anymore, you're objectifying them.
Exactly. And I see that. And I think that a lot of, personally, I think a lot of companies, um, either they're not aware of it or they are, kind of, they're kind of encouraging of this behavior in either the commentary or just the overall presentation of a female wrestler. Like, my big company that I absolutely think is horrible at this and has been horrible at this ever since I can remember is WWE. I mean, I remember, and I'm a young male watching wrestling, and I remember some of the stuff that would come out of like Jerry the King Lawler's mouth, and that would have me feel uncomfortable. And so I can only imagine the level of uncomfortability uh, that a female gets with a lot of those comments. And like he was the first one I noticed, like really like, wow, this is way inappropriate to be saying. And I can only imagine how the women that he was talking about would think of that later on if they would have caught a clip about it or anything. So that was always disturbing to me. And it seems like right now, especially with WWE, they're at a level to where I don't think they're encouraging it, but kind of like on a subliminal way, they're still accepting of it. And they're still making it so that the women are either being objectified or not taken as seriously as wrestlers,
For sure.
which yeah, that shocked me because they're supposed to be leader of this whole women's revolution, which a lot of us know that. I mean, they really didn't start anything by that. There were these talents were still in wrestling, but I remember an NXT match. It was Mercedes Monet or then Sasha Banks versus Bailey, which had everybody blown away. I don't know if you remember that match in particular in NXT Takeover. I forget where it was, but that had me actually having hope, saying, "Hey, this is going to change things." And for the most part, I think it did. How did matches like that impact you?
So with the horsewomen and everything, I was really young when that happened, and growing up, I would watch some of the older product, and just like seeing the flip, like kind of switch, but it wasn't like a complete switch. Is it a better step? For sure. It's so much better than like bra and panties matches, right?
Yeah,
But it definitely, like, that entire era definitely put some hope into every women's division.
and who was it? I was reading an interview. Um, I'm trying to remember which wrestler it was. Um, Mickey, what's her last name? I went blank all of
Mickey
a sudden.
James.
Mickey James, yeah. And I mean, even now to make this comment coming from her, she's like, it's a real shame that when I see a female pro wrestler right now, I see her ass more than I do her face. And a lot of people, they were disappointing me, making like disparaging remarks towards her, but I think she was trying to make a very valid point as to what's going on.
I do think her point was very valid. I do think it was a little misworded, but I
Yeah,
think what she was trying to say definitely like makes sense. Like we shouldn't have to like sexualize ourselves to get anywhere.
right. And I mean, there's just so many talents I think of right now um, that are really great technically. I'm going to say some that people know. Jordan Grace, she's really impressed me quite a bit. Rhea Ripley, her athleticism's just been off the chart. I'm not going to say so much lately, but I'd say about 2 or 3 years ago, she was really making big strides in that and really showing us that the women are here and they're just as talented as the men and can pull off moves that are in lots of instances even better than the men pull off. And I don't know, have you seen that increase more, or kind of like we were talking about in some areas, uh, women have gotten better as far as the technical side of things, or have they always, which is kind of my belief, they've always been better, but have just been kind of held back for whatever reason not to show that side.
So I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's a little bit of them was holding back because you hear stories of them like getting in trouble for doing things too intense.
Yeah,
But I think since they've gotten their moment to shine, the matches like take a divas match and compare it to a women's match now, and the difference is really crazy. It's astronomically different, and I think it's because they get that chance to shine now.
yeah, I do too. And I think it was another WWE special I was watching, and I even forget who it was, but they were really frustrated that even they were instructed not to do that type of punch because only men do that type of punch, and the women here don't do that. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Show a real punch, show some toughness in it. Um, I personally, though, like focusing primarily on the indies, this is one of the reasons why I do. I think the indies have led the charge as far as women's presence in the ring and the athleticism. Uh, I see a lot of examples of this. One of my favorites is Mickey Knuckles, and just what she's done in terms of deathmatch wrestling and really showing that, hey, women can do this style of wrestling too. And I think it was Chuck Stein I was talking to. He said that in a deathmatch wrestling setting, she was his favorite to work with.
Mm.
Uh, have I don't know what your stance is on deathmatch wrestling, because a lot of people in the business consider it garbage wrestling. I happen to see it as an art because there are ways to get it done and get it done safely and still have the same impact. What are your feelings on that style of wrestling right now?
So I feel like you have to be a certain type of crazy to do that for sure. Obviously, I don't like support anyone going and like dying or like getting injured for the sake of wrestling. However, as you said, there are ways to do things safely. So I think it's a very to each their own thing, of course. But I mean, death matches I personally will enjoy watching. But again, to each their own.
Yeah, this last week, there's a company, and you can watch them on Triller, TNT. They're based out of the UK, and I'm thinking of her name's Emerson Jane. She just recently won their title for deathmatch wrestling, and she's done stuff I wouldn't have thought of doing back in the day. Real brutal stuff that she was taking, um, and it was a way impressive match. So I I hope that women, young women especially, that aspire to go into wrestling will watch these. I consider them innovators to our sport, and I hope they take it into heart and incorporate that into their styles. Not necessarily the deathmatch style, but just the women that are on the indie scene, such as yourself today. And with you, especially every time I watch one of your matches, I really appreciate them because I can tell you still got a lot of that old school influence to you. You're very technically sound, and who was it that I was thinking you reminded me of? Oh, you reminded me a little bit of Arn Anderson in a lot of the way you were executing your moves. Do you have a lot of old school influence in your style?
So the training I received, very, very, very old school. And the more I train, the more I get to learn other things. But, getting to keep some of the solid things that have gone generation to generation is really special to me. Um, it's really special to like experience and learn a little bit of everything and find what's best for each person.
That's good to hear, and yeah, I can tell you were trained old school just because it shows in all your matches, and I encourage everybody to watch as many matches of yours as they can. Um, One thing I'm hoping maybe you could incorporate it in your move set, but since you reminded me of Arn Anderson so much, I'm thinking you might want to throw a spine buster in there because I could see you really executing that in that old school way, that just hard hitting, devastating look to it.
Not sure if there's any on YouTube, but I have a spine buster and I will continue. I don't use it very often, but I will bust it out and hope it gets posted for you to see.
Okay. Yeah, do that because I'll keep looking for it too. Right. In the past few weeks, I've watched at least, I'd say, about 10 or 20 matches that I could find you in. And only a couple were duplicates. So, yeah, I encourage everybody to look you up, look up Kimber Lena, and just check out her work. And like I said, it's just really that old school, straightforward, hard hitting style, and you don't water it down any. And that's one of the things I appreciate most out of your style of wrestling. It's very entertaining. It's very refreshing.
I feel like it's been a little bit lost, like the old school style. I mean, again, to each their own, but it's something I like incorporating in my moveset for sure.
Now, this is one thing, and how do you feel it's been? Why do you think it's? Because I've noticed that too. Why do you think that style's lost? Do you think some people just view it as old fashioned and, oh, I don't want to do that? Or that they're just like what I see a lot in indies is a bunch of spot monkeys, just waiting to get that spot in, waiting to get the pop from the crowd and and things like that. Why do you feel like it's kind of losing that the old school edge to it?
So pro wrestling has evolved, and as good as the old school stuff is, it wouldn't be as entertaining if it just stayed that way for however many years it's been. So
Right.
it's a good thing that like when wrestling evolved, like there's the people who will do like the fun flippy stuff, and then there's the people who does the old school, and then there's the storytellers, and then all sorts of different styles. I think it's good, and I think everybody has their own style that they're interested in. And I'm really supportive of that because every style is needed.
Yeah, I believe so too. And yeah, I like your style and hope it does continue to evolve. Every match I see, like from the older ones coming up to the newer ones, I do notice an improvement with you. And me as a fan, I appreciate watching that and seeing that happen. And I especially like how you adapt to your opponent too. I've noticed there's times you got to kind of slow down the pace a little bit for them, or it seems like which you do a really good job of. It seems like you gotta work a little bit harder to get them over in whatever point of the match. But I have noticed an evolution in you as far as that's concerned.
For sure. Like, my matches last year are drastically different than my matches this year. And I think as wrestlers, everyone evolves over time. And that's a good thing to like keep learning and keep finding out what's good for you. They've recently, they being most promotions, I turned heel in one promotion. And then all the other promotions I worked like in that month were like, wait a minute, I know what I see here. And so everything is different, and it's good to try new things while being comfortable in what you're doing.
Right. So being booked a heel versus babyface, which one do you prefer? I might have asked you this before, but personally, which one do you prefer?
I think the last time you asked me, I said babyface, but now that I've gone heel, I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like the heel stuff. I really
Is it?
like the heel stuff.
Yeah, I noticed a little bit of heel coming out in you in one or two of the matches, and I especially like your interaction with the audience. It's just kind of like that arrogant, blowing them off type of attitude. Do you have any heel influences on you currently that you draw from to get your version of the heel coming out?
So um, really, it's people in the academy I train with that I get the inspiration from, and my fiance, who is a retired pro wrestler now, um,
Nice.
who I get a lot of it from.
That's awesome. And I just barely got the post like a couple weeks ago, but it looks like you guys are engaged. Am I right?
Yes,
Yes, congratulations to you guys.
thank
That,
you.
yeah, that was real nice to see. Getting back into some topics of like sexism in pro wrestling um, is the whole topic of Vince McMahon and his jolly crew. And this is just we I think it was like 2 years ago it first started coming out, and I don't know if it fizzled out of the media or whatever. I kind of got the impression that WWE was the people in it were instructed just not to acknowledge it whatsoever, which I think is me personally. I think that's the wrong approach to it. Um, and I was reading that some charges were dropped due to the current administration, which I think is bullshit. But then I read tacked onto that a little bit later that some charges were being added onto it. So I think what it was the criminal charges were being dropped, but the civil charges are not. But our administration right now really pissed me off with that. Um, the country's leaders, I think everybody knows who we're talking about, uh, seems to be uh, just giving out pardons or just letting these guys off the hook, possibly to make himself look better or not. Um, were you very surprised when all the info about Vince McMahon came out, and his, for lack of a better term, his extra activities that he was doing. I wasn't surprised myself, but I was surprised as to the extent myself. But I'm interested. How did that make you? Uh, how did you react to all that?
So, again, the extent was the surprising part to me, not the fact that it happened. It just kind of, it's kind of like a wake up call. It's like women are not safe, and in some workplaces where they should be, especially, coming to a place to work, whether it be wrestling, whether you're a server at a restaurant, no matter what, you should feel safe and you should feel secure and you shouldn't worry about anything like happening to you, your boss taking advantage of you, anything like that. Like the fact that that happened is beyond disgusting, and not even the fact that it happened there, but the fact that that probably happens daily to some women in their workplaces. Like there needs to be a little bit more of a wake up call, a little bit more notice on this. We need eyes on what is going on right now.
I believe that too, and it seems like, well, ever since this whole presidency has started, it seems like they're setting us back, in into like back to like free the pre 1950s style thinking about this sort of thing, and it's appalling to me.
For sure. Like, again, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men, I'm sure it does. But so many women will feel insecure going to places where they should be more than welcome. That should be one of their safe places, work or home. And sometimes they don't even get home. Like,
Right.
there needs to be a wake up because people want to talk about the steps that have been taken, how much we have progressed, and that is great, but it's not enough. Like,
No, absolutely not. I feel like I said, like it's just being blown off and not taken seriously enough. Um, Personally, what I'd like to tell everybody watching and everything, if you know or are made aware of these sexual predators and even a promotion that you watch or are thinking of watching, um, what I do, I first of all will not be silent about it. I will write to the promoter themselves and tell them how disgusting it is and why I think it's disgusting. But not only that, I will actually go as far as to post this promotion up and tell people why they shouldn't watch the promotion. Uh, that's kind of like my way of getting them to take accountability for this. And um, either one of two things happens. Either, well, three things. Either I get blocked, or they will actually take the person off the card. And other instances, if they don't stop, well, I'll just keep telling people about it. If they ask me why I don't like the promotion, I'll tell them the reason why.
very understandable. There was an indie wrestler here in Texas who, I've never had a problem in the locker room except for this. Who basically told me I was like getting booked because of my chest. I was like, that is insane. I'm like, people need to have a little bit more like respect. It's
Yeah,
insane.
I mean, I
Or
really think that there needs to be like a zero tolerance for that, and you would think there would be.
there should be, but like, there's like a couple people who, if I find out they're like gonna be at a show and I get asked about the show, I'm not doing it because I don't Like, you don't know, like, if they're gonna say something else, if they're gonna do something. It just needs to be safer all around.
Right. I believe that 100%. Um, and speaking of like current things going on, I brought up Vince McMahon. I'm going to address this guy just flat out. He's another podcaster, JD from New York. He has a podcast that kind of sounds similar to my title. It's called Off the Script. Uh, and his most recent heat, I mean, he's had heat from lots of women before. And this guy, I mean, I don't even think he's even set up a wrestling ring before in his life. I mean, that's he's basically like your typical armchair booker. But some of the things he has said directed at women, and it's not just women. Like there's been some racial comments that come out of his mouth and everything over the years, and I'm surprised he's got as many dedicated following as he does after hearing this. But he I don't know if he still does commentary for him, but oh, what is the name of the promotion he does commentary for? Oh, HOG, House of Glory. So this was it? I think it was about 2.5 weeks ago. I'm watching House of Glory, and Mercedes Monet is going to be in the main event. So that was the whole reason I wanted to watch it anyway, because she's been, I mean, not only doing AEW as champ there, but she's been working with a lot of indie companies, being their face and being a champ for them, about 4 or 5 different ones. So I wanted to really check out her momentum and how she was doing. And they had an intermission, and for some of the intermission, I'm waiting, and it's supposed to be a 15-minute long intermission. And I waited, and I mean, finally, I turned it off. It had been half an hour, and I had no idea why they didn't come back from intermission. And I guess the thing was Mercedes was refusing to go out and work as long as he stayed on commentary,
Oh,
which,
wow.
yeah, so they did take him off, which I thought was a big win. I mean, not only for her, but everyone watching the program. And the I don't know if he said any like vulgar things like I've heard him say before, but I do know that he's very critical of AEW and the wrestlers in there, and just sort of took that out on him. I mean, number one, the guy's a hypocrite. When he was in WWE, this guy was just over the moon for Sasha Banks and the work that Sasha's doing. Now he goes to a company he doesn't like and just totally beats down and bashes on her. And I guess she was sick of it, and basically told him at intermission, I'm not going to go out there and wrestle if you continue to have this jerk on my commentary. And I applaud House of Glory for taking him off, and I didn't see him to be anything special as a commentator anyway. So it's my advice to them, if any of them are listening, just don't have him on at all. Make him look for work elsewhere, because she is not the only talent that he's done this to. And one thing I can't stand is marks pretending like they're a booker or something, or have any experience in it whatsoever. It just drives me nuts when there's some guy on his little podcast talking about a subject that he really knows nothing about. And that's one thing that I wanted to address everybody about, with that guy. And I'm happy to invite him on the show and have him explain a lot of his comments to me. I mean, this is an open invitation to him to do that at any time, or if he feels like he needs to defend himself, he can defend himself to me, because I'd be very interested on what he has to say. Um, what do you think? I mean, do you think other companies should follow the lead? I certainly do, but I think they did the right thing. What's your opinion on that particular situation I told you about?
So if someone is making someone, a woman, person of color, or whatever it is, uncomfortable, and they're being very purposely and openly like offensive to them because of those things, or for any reason really, if you're harassing someone, take your business elsewhere. Now, I wasn't aware of the situation, I don't know the whole story or anything, but like just in general, if you're gonna be hateful to a group of people or just a specific person and you're gonna harass them, you gotta go, buddy.
Yeah, the one comment I made, he had heat with Alexa Bliss. I don't know, like 3 years ago or something. The one comment I heard was just, I mean, pretty awful. He basically described her as a woman in bed that just lays there and takes it. And that was his exact words. I mean, there's no way this guy can deny it. I saw the clip. That's exactly what he said. And that's appalling to me. That's disgusting. And that's just the one thing he said, the one time he got heat. And I don't know all the details on what he said about Monet. Um, I have heard him talk about other wrestlers. It was a female woman of color. He said her name sounded like some type of exotic drink somewhere. I mean, and the guy sits there and says this thing. He gets heat for it from the IWC and is completely unapologetic for it. I don't know if he doesn't learn or if he doesn't care, but I mean, he takes no responsibility for it. The only thing I saw him say, which you could tell it was finally affecting him, and it was probably affecting his numbers more than anything, was that he was having a hard couple of weeks mentally. And that was basically it. I I don't know. I think JD, I think you owe a lot of people a public apology. Um, you're not that great of a podcaster to begin with, and much less, I mean, just spewing out just uncalled for hate speech. And that's never a way I'll try and get listeners. I don't think that's a way you should try to get listeners, is by putting out the hate speech and being controversial like that. Um, are there any other points that have affected you personally that you'd like to point out, either to fans, or to other wrestlers, that I mean that you would like to either underline, reiterate, or make a new statement in regards to our topic of women in wrestling?
For sure. Um, I could think of a couple things. One, I want to give thank you to everybody who will be like in defense of these women. For example, I was doing a match with, and I'm not gonna name names whatsoever, with
Okay.
like a mixed tag, right? And one of the dudes said something like a little. Now I don't know how he meant what he said, because I will say it could be open interpretation, right?
Okay.
And my tag partner stepped right in, and when he was like, if you do anything weird, you know, it's going to turn from a wrestling match to a shoot fight. And I was like, I appreciate people like that who will like step in and put people in their place. Or and another thing, and this goes out to men and women because I get it from men and women coming into my DMs wanting to see my body, wanting to get into a relationship with me. I had one dude. Ooh. I had one dude come into my DMs and say that the God, that his Lord has promised him to me, and that like his mother knows of like the relationship, and he figured out like where I was and was ready to drive up here, and I'm like, no, 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 like that, like if I don't know if people are aware of what they're doing. I would imagine so. Like that's obviously like not okay. But
You would think that would be obvious, and I don't know. I start to question their intelligence.
like just coming into women's DMs or even if it's to their face and saying like disgusting things. It's not okay. And that's not putting down anyone who comes into my DMs and they're like, that was a good match, or wanting to like ask me questions about wrestling. I've had
Right.
some up and coming wrestlers like message me and ask me like how I get my gear done or how I get my move set, stuff like that. Like it's okay to message people who are very open to it, of course, and have like questions, compliments, but the line gets crossed. The line gets crossed when it gets creepy, when you're trying to meet up with someone. Like it has to stop. It used to be like 5 people a day or more on my Facebook. And that's why my fiance actually got Facebook. And it's toned down a little bit, but I feel like
Yeah.
some men still like see that as a challenge. And it's like, to me that's the most frustrating part is I could be putting in all the hard work or anything and someone will still slide in my DMs and be like, someone offered to pay me 3,000 over DMs for feet pics, and I'm like, where did like let me do my wrestling stuff without you
Wow.
openly creepy to me.
Right. I have an invitation for you, and also a message to these type of creeps out there. If you ever get things like that, I'd be more happy than to make these creeps famous and post their face or their screen name or anything all over the place, letting people know what type of a creep they are. Number one, um, and that's open to anybody that's watching. That happens. Uh, it's intolerable. There's no place for it. This isn't 1932 anymore. You can't disrespect not just women, but just a human being like that, um, and think it's okay. And if you do, there's something seriously wrong with you, and you need to get some counseling. So that's just for anybody that has things like that. That like I should have kept the guy whose comment just really creeped me out. Instead, I blocked him. But if that's going to happen, and any of you guys are going to come on to my podcast and openly make disparaging remarks, you're going to get called out, and you're going to get told what a sicko you are. And I'm going to let everybody know what a sicko you are. That's just something open to everybody. If they ever have that come to them, nobody should feel unsafe where they work. It's just unacceptable. I mean, nobody should be feel unsafe anywhere. But I mean, this is Kimber's job. This is what she does for a living, and she does not ask for nor need any of this type of shit going on. And it's got to stop. And I think that it's got to stop with most men who are watching this. We got to be the ones to especially be vocal about it and let these guys know that it's not okay. All right, Kimber. Now I wanted you to go ahead and tell us where we can see you next, and if somebody wants to follow you on YouTube or social media and check out your matches and check out your talent, which I suggest everybody do this after watching this, because you will see what I'm talking about when I talk about that old school style, that hard hitting approach that she has in the ring. And could you let us know where we can see you next, even the next couple of times, and a little bit of your social media that they can get in contact with you, of course, in an appropriate way?
Of course. So, um, my videos will probably be under, if you search Kimber Lena on YouTube. I've noticed a lot of my matches get posted over that. Um, and that's where I watch most of my matches back. And then my Instagram and Facebook are the ones I post on the most. Kimber Lena on Facebook and Kimba_time on Instagram are the best ways to find me and what I'm doing. And of course, again, feel free to appropriately contact me for anything that is questions. Again, that is more for the up and coming people with the questions, or if anyone wants to like express anything that they see, and bookings as well, and invites, or if anyone wants to talk wrestling, I'm also pretty open to that as well.
Okay, excellent. And I really appreciate you. People don't know we've been wanting to do this for almost a month now.
Oh yeah,
Get you on, and I wanted to let you know how much I appreciate your patience and taking the time out to do this with me. And definitely would love to have you come on again, and we could talk some other subjects.
of course.
Be great. And just for everybody, if you want to get a hold of me on X, it's Wrestling STG on X. If you Facebook, it's just Stagger Lee. On Instagram, I believe it's Wrestling STG. If I correct that, I'll put all the links to where you can get a hold of me in the podcast below. And any final thoughts, Kimber?
I think there was a lot of thoughts, and we put a lot of like time and effort into like what we wanted to do with this podcast. Like, this podcast was very important to the both of us. I want
Yes.
everybody to understand we did a lot of work, and I appreciate you having me come on here and speak about like the topic, because it's an important one to me and most women in wrestling. My final thoughts would be, again, just show women and really people in their jobs just more respect, and let's build a safe world where we can just live.
And on that note, I think we're going to end this episode. Thanks again, Kimber. I'd like to thank my wife, Mims Haven, for helping with production on this, as she always does. And everybody, please remember to just keep wrestling in your heart. Good night, everybody.